Buckle up, everybody. Episode 12 of the Nevada Patriot podcast with Matt Sadler begins now. We're going to be talking about the post-election hangover, the state of free speech, the need for a new judge locally like yesterday, safety and security, and also some local holiday happenings. Stay tuned.
Attention, Southern Nevadans. Turn up that dial for some real talk about the issues that matter to us. From some of our Valley's local leaders, business owners, and even the occasional elected official. Airing now on incredibly intelligent local radio stations and streaming worldwide at thenevadapatriot.com. Welcome to the Nevada Patriot Podcast with Matt Sadler.
Thank you very much, aggressive voiceover intro guy. We have another great episode for you today. I'm going solo today in the DJ Sound studio, but so many things to talk about. Also, reach out to me anytime through our site at thenevadapatriot.com and leave me a comment on what topics you want to discuss. Listener input is always appreciated. Even the bad stuff, let me hear it, people. Ask anyone in Pahrump or Southern Nevada, and there are strong feelings and opinions on a variety of things. We're over 3 weeks out from the general election, but there's still plenty to discuss about that. Free speech is a major topic. Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter has massive implications. We're going to get into some of that. Locally, we've been in desperate need to appoint a justice of the peace to our court system. We need to get that going strong again. Also, safety in our town is of major concern. You have to ask yourself, seriously ask yourself, do you feel safer now than, say, 3 years ago? And how secure do you feel economically? Is it me, or does it seem like the media and government is out of touch with our day-to-day well-being? I think so. Lots of cool things are going on in our community, so there are some positive stuff to look forward to. The Pahrump Holiday Task Force will be feeding everyone. Again, Thanksgiving was a blast. Thank you, Linda Wright, and all the volunteers who helped out with that. So Christmas Eve, they're going to be feeding us at the Nye Communities Coalition on Wilson Road again. Sleep in Heavenly Peace has a terrific night of delicious food going on later in December. That's on the 17th. You're going to have good food and entertainment. John Michael Ferrari is going to be playing. Sophie Love, DJ Sounds. You're going to have a really cool MC at that event. I won't give away the spoiler on who that might be. There are still a few tickets left. When I say few, I'm trying to get you to move, I don't know, half a dozen at least or so. They're not going to be available for too much longer. Also, there's going to be an essay contest for the high schoolers at Pahrump Valley High School. It's going to be sponsored in part by the Belmont office. So be on the lookout for that, students. If any parents of any students, or if any really cool students are listening to this radio station right now or hearing this podcast, please submit an entry. Details are going to follow shortly. I'm sure your administrators, teachers are going to let you know all about it soon. So thank you all for joining us. So we're going to talk first about the post-election hangover. So I don't know about you folks, but I am definitely happy that the election is over. That doesn't mean I'm super pleased with the results of the election. I think living in Nye County in Pahrump, there's a lot to be proud of. I believe that the ballots that we had, the actual written ballots versus having widespread usage of the voting machines, that is going to be a net positive. We're going in the right direction. Now, I know that the process isn't without its own hiccups. You can't blame the existing system or the existing clerk's office for a lot of the mishaps that might have happened. There's some blame with that, with the prior administration and how things changed hands. It's kind of peculiar that you have an appointment start, a few months before a general election. Why the prior clerk couldn't just stick it out until after this election. I think that was a major disservice to our community. Now, that's my opinion, not the opinion of this radio station or of anyone else that sponsors or helps or advertises on our platform. My opinion only. The mail-in ballots that we have and as instituted by our Nevada law here, they're a problem. It's not as big of a problem here in Nye County, mainly because of the new system with the paper ballots. But you got to ask yourself, the chain of custody with these ballots is a major issue. First of all, you have to rely on the U.S. Postal Service. God bless those people that work that job. There's a lot of good workers in our local station here at the carriers that we have locally. I'm not casting stones or aspersions on them, but would you mail somebody hundreds of dollars of cash in our current system? The sanctity of our vote, I think, matters. It might not be worth hundreds and thousands of dollars, but to me, my vote is, honestly, that's how I feel about that. So the thought of me mailing a ballot in our U.S. Postal Service, it's not ever going to happen. From the time they mail you the ballot, you're assuming that they're going to mail the ballot to the proper address, the proper voter, which oftentimes does not happen. Oftentimes to residences where people receive ballots that aren't living there. Not just one or two ballots, but sometimes half a dozen ballots, maybe even more. So that's a huge problem, right? We have these ballots floating around. If they get into the wrong hands, who knows what can happen with that. And then you're assuming that when you finally do fill out your ballot and then you put it in your mailbox or a mailbox, that it's going to get to the proper destination expeditiously. I myself don't have that much faith on a widespread basis to put that faith into the U.S. Postal Service. So that's one problem with the chain of custody when it comes to those mail-in ballots. I always recommend to folks, if you're gonna vote, which I hope everybody does, especially the well-informed voters, please participate. I encourage that. Our constitutional republic depends on it. When you do get your ballot, fill it out, drop it off at the actual clerk's office or at one of the secure polling locations when they have the boxes out. That's the best way to do it. Or vote on voting day. Those are the ways to do that. So I know I kind of veered off on that, the hangover that we had. So the incessant ads, the flyers, the commercials, the radio spots, all that stuff. I'm sure to an extent we're all happy that it's over. And I talk to folks on a daily basis. They'll ask me, why can't elections be clean, and why can't candidates go at each other on the issues and not so much attacks. Well, the plain answer to that is that it works. For right or wrong, the person that can mail out the most things, that can put out the most commercials, that can do the most text blasts or the email blasts or banner ads when you're surfing the net, when you're on Facebook, when you're on Instagram, whatever, those the reason why they're out there is because they're effective and they work. And that's a sad state of affairs, really, because I'm a former candidate, so running on the issues, on ideas in a fair, balanced format, when you respect your opponent, I think that's the best case. I was lucky enough, I was in a race where I think my opponent and me, we respected each other. So that was kind of an anomaly because it's not usually like that. So, but sadly, the negative attack ads, they seem to have some kind of power and grip on our society. And I guess for the foreseeable future, that's going to be one of the necessary evils we have to deal with in the political process. But like you, I am glad that's over. As far as the results go, being a constitutional conservative, disappointed with the results. I know in some races my ideal candidate on the Republican ticket didn't make it to the general election, but I was really pulling for some of these candidates that came up a little bit short. I think Nevada is going to be overall in a better spot with more checks and balances, a little more gridlock, which can be a good thing with a new Republican governor that can hopefully have differing voices at the table. I think that's a good thing. And I think Joe Lombardo has the potential to really get us back on track. if for nothing else, and to be that voice that's going to put a stop to some of the crazy legislation that's affected our community. And I'll kind of get into some of those, at least one of those laws that I think has really had an adverse effect on our community at large. So we'll get into some of that a little bit later, but I'd sure like to hear from a lot of you folks. If you ever want to email me at mattsadlerfornevada@yahoo.com, or there should be a comment form on our website, thenevadapatriot.com. I'd love to hear some of your insights, some of your thoughts on what happened during the election cycle, to see what's kind of making the community tick. You know, I am the local bail bondsman out here, so I get to talk to a great wide cross-section of our Pahrump community, our Nye County community, not just Pahrump, actually Beatty, Tonopah, different areas in Nye County. And still, you know, some folks from even Las Vegas. So, you know, not everybody in Las Vegas is out to lunch or you know, raving leftist progressives. I'm a Vegas-born person myself, and I like to consider myself as conservative, as constitutional as anybody in Pahrump. So the next thing that we're going to go ahead and get into is the topic of free speech. I'd be seriously remiss if I didn't mention Elon Musk's takeover over at Twitter. So that obviously is going to be a seminal moment in 2022 as far as the happenings that went on, especially with regard to technology as it pertains to free speech. As a net gain here for free speech, I think it is a good thing. It is a gain. I don't think that Elon Musk, although he's painted out to be this right-winger or something by certain media outlets, he's far from that. I just believe he's a cerebral man who is just dealing with logic right now, right? So he's not born in America. He's South African, so he looks at our society and the bedrock principles of our constitutional republic being, you know, free speech, right to bear arms, basic tenets in our Constitution and in our Bill of Rights that probably he studied as a youngster in South Africa, and sees that logically free speech has been under attack for, you know, decades really, but it's really gone in hyperdrive in the past few years. And he's just a person, I think, that is just thinking through this logically. Although I think this purchase of Twitter is not going to just solve all the problems that we have with our media at large, because those problems are immense. Twitter is a huge platform, but it's not the entire at-large media. You still have the major networks, you have the cable networks, you have other platforms out there, you know, that are competing with Twitter. Facebook, huge. YouTube, huge. One of these days it'll be a badge of courage when I'm kind of blacklisted or shadow banned on YouTube. I think I'm being shadow banned a bit on Facebook, which is crazy because I think I have maybe 1,800 followers, give or take. And it's funny because I think only about 60 to 100 on average will ever see my posts. And we're talking not just in hours or even a day, but I mean, I'll look back on the analytics of it and I'll see that 5-6 days later it's only reached 100 people, and that's almost impossible. That's not even, 5 to 10% of my followers are actually seeing my stuff. So and that's just me, a little piddly podcaster, bail bondsman candidate who didn't win his primary type guy. That's not I'm not this huge voice right now. So just goes to show you that if you do get kind of bigger, it does have ramifications. It does have an effect on the narrative that's in our society. You don't have a voice, and the thing is with our country, the way that we're operating on all cylinders is when you have different voices that are allowed to be heard. And I'm a staunch believer that no matter how stupid your opinion is, no matter how crazy it is, as long as you're not directly violating a law and inciting violence, inciting riots, inciting an affray. I'm a bondsman, so I've actually bailed people out for that. An affray, you go look it up, it's AFFRAY. It's an interesting type of charge, but kind of goes along those same lines as far as inciting people to commit crimes. Those things are already illegal. So when Twitter or Facebook or whoever, YouTube, goes above and beyond, I think that's a direct infringement on our inherent rights of free speech. Now, not all of that, not quashing free speech in and of itself on these individual platforms is not necessarily illegal, because a lot of them are private companies. They can have their own parameters, but we got to call it what it is. It's muting people. It's canceling them, and I think that's wrong. Going back to Elon Musk, I don't want to sound like I'm bipolar, but what he kind of did to, for instance, Kanye West, he's been saying some things that are controversial, that can be construed as insensitive, foolish, a little bit out there, but I think he has the right to do that. So if you ask me, should Twitter have censored him, as in suspended his account or kind of booted him off, whether it's temporary or indefinite, I say no. I think people have the right to express themselves, no matter how silly their position is. Let the ideas compete in the realm of free speech, and let the public decide what they want to follow, who they want to criticize. I think all points of view, although not all, I don't agree with all points of view, but I think they have a right to say what they want. And that's Kanye West, that's whoever, people I disagree with, that's Kamala Harris, that's Barack Obama. I'm not for censoring anybody that I disagree with. I think they're wrong, borderline bonkers. I think Pelosi and tons of these politicians, I think they spout out complete gibberish, but they have the right to do that, and they have the right to have followers, and we have the right to engage them in dialogue and debate. I think that's healthy. That's kind of how we've always operated for decades. I mean, I'm not that old, but I've been around for a while, and this is all relatively new. This phenomenon, this compelling of speech, this canceling, this muting opposing voices, it's a new thing, and it's not a good thing. I think we're trending in the wrong direction. I think this purchase of Twitter by Elon Musk is a step in that right direction. And there's almost no debate about it. This omission of news stories, or this canceling of certain opinions or stories that certain media outlets have been doing over the past. So whether it's the Hunter Biden laptop situation, or it's the January 6th events that went on, and how the media mischaracterizes or doesn't report on certain aspects, or highlights certain things, or embellishes certain activities, or outright lies about certain events that happened on January 6th. As far as I see objectively, one person was murdered on January 6th, and it was an unarmed Caucasian woman, former veteran, Trump supporter. Yeah, she was a Trump supporter, and she was shot by an armed security person. This lady was not armed. The real news story of that whole event should be that an unarmed woman was shot by security forces. That should be what the story was, but that was not the story. So we heard lots of things like multiple people were murdered. Yeah, there was a person in particular that ended up dying later on, I think due to other complications that weren't directly associated to the events of January 6th. But you don't see the media retracting their position, their stories, when the real stories do finally come out. You have to ask yourself, why was this situation on January 6th at the Capitol treated so differently than the widespread rioting, burning, looting, and actual murdering on the streets, in 2020 from rioters during that summer? It was off the chain. It was anarchy going on in our streets, and the media was absentee on that. And what we're finding now is, as the free speech Twitter saga continues, is that you're seeing stories, you're seeing I guess you call it intra-office correspondence and things going on within the Twitter machine that seem to point toward a collusion with the media, with the Biden administration, with leftist agendas to quash certain negative stories about, say, Hunter Biden, or things that make them look bad, the Biden administration. So as that stuff rolls out, do not be surprised if Apple and the Android market end up taking these apps out of their app stores. So up until recently, ironically, until Elon took over Twitter, I didn't have the Twitter app because I'm hesitant on installing certain apps because you're giving away permissions that you might not even be aware of when you're signing on the app. So I kind of try to use what they call the not native. What's the name for it? Kind of just on, say, Twitter.com on your mobile device. You can still pretty much access a lot of the same features you can on the app, but just using it from basically using the internet on your phone, not the app. Twitter.com on your phone, the mobile version of just their website to log in and to do this, to engage Twitter. And I believe that would still be available if they pull the app off the market. So I highly encourage folks to maybe get used to that a bit. Maybe don't always log in through your app. Maybe log in just through the website, twitter.com, and use it from your smartphone. Get used to that format, because pretty soon it wouldn't surprise me if that's the only way that you can do it. The same thing goes with Parler again. I know for a while Parler was banned from the app stores, but that could always happen to Parler or Telegram or who knows, whatever these other third-party applications are. Maybe get used to trying to engage them on just their normal websites instead of the apps, because when they take that floor out from underneath us, I don't want to have masses of people that are panicking with no access to the platforms that they got used to using. So those are good things to think about. I want to thank you for sticking by with us here. We're going to take a quick break. I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes. I'll keep you guessing a little bit. We're going to hear from some community supporters, some acknowledgments. We'll be back here shortly. Hey Pahrump, it's Matt Sadler here. Tune into FM 97.7 KPFF every Saturday at 6 p.m. for real talk and real conversations about the things that matter. The Nevada Patriot podcast with Matt Sadler will feature topics and conversations with business leaders, faith-based leaders, elected officials, political candidates, and important issues that are changing our society forever. You don't want to miss an episode. You'll be able to catch replays of our show throughout the week at 4 p.m., streaming worldwide at godfather.media. If you have suggestions for topics, or you're a business looking for acknowledgement opportunities during our show, call the station toll-free at 1-877-Pahrump. Until the next episode, Nevada Patriots, God bless. Alright folks, grab a pen, save the date, Saturday, December 17th, 5:30 p.m. Gourmet spaghetti and meatball dinner held for Sleep in Heavenly Peace. They do a great job in our community. They build beds so that kids who do not have a bed have a good quality bed and a good peaceful night's sleep. John Michael Ferrari is going to be performing. DJ Sounds will be mixing his beats. There'll be a silent auction, a live auction, and there are limited tickets, folks. They're probably going to go very fast. They're $25 each. You can pick them up at Natural Vibes. That is in the Mom's Diner Shopping Center. So if you know where Mom's Diner is, Natural Vibes is in there. Go in there when they're open, pick up tickets. They're selling them there for you. You don't want to miss this. For more details on this organization, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, visit shpbeds.org. That's SHP, like Peter, beds.org. Thank you. All right, we're back. I appreciate that you are still here listening to me. It means a lot. No, it seriously does. Thank you. So, before we close out that little mini segment on free speech, just want to let everybody know that, don't discount your voice, your particular angle on things. You never know how your thoughts, your ideas, your input can have a lasting effect on generations or someone's life or someone ahead of you, bigger than yourself, it all matters. I look back, and when I look at my feelings on the Constitution, my political stances, I guess you'd call me a far right conservative, socially conservative, economically conservative, Republican. I look back to my upbringing in a blue dog Democrat household, in a blue dog Democrat type neighborhood in Las Vegas, growing up in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. Having a family that, although, they were, I guess you'd call them Reagan Democrats, were far from this, Ted Cruz type Republican philosopher that I've become in my old age here. I look back to who I consider to be kind of a hippie government teacher who was the furthest thing from right wing in my 12th grade year before I was old enough to register to vote, and he put out an extra credit assignment. So in lieu of, not extra credit, but it was one of those assignments in lieu of an actual paper where I had to actually work hard, I could go to some kind of political event or something to have the equivalent score of what I would get on a test. If I just came back and wrote a paragraph on my event, showed a ticket stub or whatever, proof that I had attended something. So I end up randomly going to a Newt Gingrich speech at one of the hotels, where it was free for students. And I remember going there with a few friends and hearing some of the ideas at the time in the mid-90s, this Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, and how he's getting stuff done with the Republican Congress and a Democrat Bill Clinton president administration, and just hearing his ideas and seeing how that makes sense. And I'm not going to say that Newt Gingrich was the guy that planted this in me. It happened to be just a government teacher who lined up on a different side of the spectrum than I am right now, that just planted a little seed, a little nugget, nudged me in a direction to go maybe listen to a speech, a random speech. But it was just that guy saying that. I mean, who knows what I would have turned out to be had I just kept in the same lane I'd grown up in. I mean, all my cousins, my aunts and uncles, extended family. I really don't know how many, or if there are any Republicans that I'm blood related to in my family at all. So hey, anybody that's blood related to me that is a Republican, I'd love to hear from you. So reach out to me through the NevadaPatriot.com. But I just want to let that be encouraging to you as we kind of close out that segment on free speech. Use your position, use your free speech. I don't know, you could be babysitting 6-year-olds, or you could be talking to someone on a bench next to you as you're ready to pay your fine at the courthouse, or you could be just sitting in a line at Starbucks. I don't know, wherever you're at. Don't be afraid. Engage people. You never know what your opinion or your actions or your encouragement, how that can affect and how that can land on someone. So anyway, so now we're going to go to the next topic on the docket here. Ironically, docket. We're going to talk about some court stuff. We're going to talk about our community's need for a new judge, a new justice of the peace. Now, Judge Kent Jasperson passed away in August, and I think he was a fantastic judge. I think he was very fair. I had been in his courtroom doing matters associated with my bail bonds office, and just saw how he would treat people fairly, in my opinion, of course, how he would treat them fairly, how he would listen, how he would give people respect. I think the man honestly respected the dignity of others very well, and he was a very good temperament. He had a very good temperament for a judge, which I think is a huge qualifier. Now, he came into that job with no clear judicial background. Law enforcement, of course, yes, he was a law enforcement officer. He was part of the Nye County Sheriff's Office. He was, for lack of a better word, a leader of men, for sure. And I think those skills definitely translated to the bench, and he had a great tenure, and he ran a good courtroom, and I respect him. And I was hoping that we would, again, the word expeditiously, appoint a qualified replacement for him, because as it stood, the court was already kind of at capacity, so to speak, with the cases and the caseload. It seemed cases getting continued, things like that, even prior to him passing away. So I figured that was going to be a huge priority for the Nye County Commissioners to appoint a new Justice of the Peace. Now, this is back in August, and we're now in December. There's been at least, 14 or 15 candidates, and I can't say that every single candidate is highly qualified to do the job. It's an interesting job in that in our community we don't require a law degree. We don't require even a Bachelor of the Arts degree in criminal justice or anything like that. It just requires the willingness to go ahead and get trained up, in some form of schooling that's required of all justices of the peace, but you don't need to have a legal background per se. You don't need to have a law degree. You don't need even a bachelor's degree in a field that's associated to law. So it's one of those things where I think life experience, temperament, aptitude, social intelligence, those are huge things that I think are monumental to a good candidate. And I can tell you that based upon me being in the Board of County Commissioners meetings when they were present, and some of these people were actually present to replace Justice of the Peace Chamley when she vacated her post, the one that now Kirk Vito sits in. By the way, I think he's a great choice. That was an excellent appointment. I think he's highly qualified, has a perfect temperament for that position. I think they really appointed a good judge. But there was also other candidates that were, in my opinion, qualified that could do that job. Maybe not as well as Judge Vito, who I think is a good judge, but a lot of them carried over for this new appointment since Judge Jasperson passed away. And in my opinion, we needed a judge appointed ASAP. Like, that should have been priority number one with the board. And there were qualified candidates at some of these meetings. The last one I kind of tuned into, online, and one of them I know for a fact has, relinquished his application, I guess you can call it, to be considered, because I think he thinks that there's no real intention on appointing any of those existing applicants, and he felt like he was spinning his wheels. I'm not going to, speak directly for him, but that's my take on why he would, take away his application, and that's sad because I know that person would do an excellent job, and the fact that they kept kicking this can down the road in this last county commission meeting where they could have taken action. It was on the agenda to take action to appoint a new judge. And they didn't do it. And there was at least on the very low end, 3 applicants, probably 4, honestly, that I would be completely comfortable with being a Justice of the Peace. It's a unique position, and I think each of these 4 candidates probably brought some overlapping character attributes that would do a great job, but also just different 4 uniquely qualified individuals. And it's a shame that at least one of those individuals is probably not going to have their name in the hat on the next go round here. But you have to ask yourself, well, logically, are they going to appoint somebody that was already there at the last commission meeting when this was on the agenda? Why are they holding out? Why are they kicking the can down the road? One commissioner wanted to look at possibly more applications. One commissioner said, well, since one of our existing commissioners is actually throwing his hat in there, we should wait until his replacement takes his spot in January. And also, we're going to wait till January, and then the new commissioner that takes over that spot is going to then start the process and start reviewing 14, 15, who knows how many more people have since applied. He's going to go ahead and try to digest all that while he's learning and acclimating to the new position. That was a really weak line of reasoning to kick the can down the road. there was nothing wrong with the existing other 4 county commissioners making a selection, and probably needing 3 out of the 4 commissioners to vote in favor. I would like I like that percentage better. 3 out of 4 versus 3 out of 5. Okay, so if 3 out of 4 of them vote a certain way, I would have more confidence in that vote. So I think that's what they should have done. I think when you had these people in front of you, I think 2 different times, and there was no action taken. I can understand maybe the first time kicking it down the road a little bit, but this last time I think it was kind of egregious why they couldn't appoint somebody there. It almost made you think, are they waiting for a particular someone to put their hat in the ring so that person can be selected? And you don't want to assume that. You don't want to say, but that's what it looks like. So it has the appearance of nepotism and crony politics at its worst. And if that were to happen, and I won't say who this individual is that I'm assuming it's going to be, if that were to happen, it already makes Nye County, who's already, under some scrutiny, even nationwide scrutiny for things that have gone on here, it's making us look even worse. And I think that is a disservice, because I'm proud of this place. I moved my family here. I love the city. I grew up in Las Vegas, but I had a chance for a better life, better business atmosphere, people who love liberty, like-minded individuals, friendlier people, a place where you think that a meritocracy is still possible. I know everybody talks about small towns and says, oh, it's a good old boys, it's who you know, it's this and that. And up until now, I was a new person in this town, and I think I've been welcomed with open arms. I'm not going to say, because I've worked the hardest, I've done the best, and I've excelled, I've done this. I think just I've been around more open-minded people who have been gracious to me, who have introduced me to other people, who have welcomed me as one of their own, and I love it. So if I see my leaders behaving in such a way as it's going to be closing the doors on people like me from coming into this community to feel a part of it, to feel welcome, to see fairness to a certain degree, to see an open playing field, to see a meritocracy, meaning people who perform the best or who deserve the best get the opportunities. That's how I want this place to be. I want it to be a meritocracy. I want it to be an open playing field. I don't want to see people dressing up and going to the commission meetings ready to undergo a serious process and be seriously considered for a spot that perhaps maybe they never have or had a legitimate chance at enjoying success in. It's like, if you're gonna just diddle around like that, to borrow a saying from my dad, diddle, thank you, Carl Sadler, it's not cool that you waste everybody's time like this. Time is valuable. These people have lives, they have careers, they have jobs, they have families. And we have a desperate need in our community to have an adequate judge take over some of these cases, because we've been lacking that for weeks and weeks and months, and we need it. So if you want this county to be taken serious, I'm talking to you, Board of County Commissioners, start acting serious. This is serious stuff. At that commission meeting, this last one that I was tuned into online, there was a certain person that's in the application process for this position that's been a pro tem, that's been certified out here for years. And I know he said the same thing at multiple meetings, that he is able to go, and they acted as if it was the first time they heard it. And I know the commissioners know this person has already been qualified, and why hasn't he been used prior to now? He should have been used. And he should be one of the ones that's also a front runner for the actual position. And I really hope that folks like him can be seriously considered, and they're not placeholding the spot for somebody, because that's what it sure looks like. Because if it wasn't that way, then why hasn't someone been appointed yet? All right, so we're going to cut down the intensity a little bit from that. And I'd be remiss, again, if I didn't congratulate a couple people for winning their local elections out here in Nye County. I'm very glad that these two individuals advanced in their elections. Congrats to them. I think they're going to do a great job. I want to congratulate a good friend of mine, Mark Kempf, for securing and defeating his opponent in the election for Nye County Clerk. I think he is going to be a trendsetter. I think he's going to do a great job. He's fearless. He's very cerebral. He's a very smart man. He is a good man. He has a good moral compass. And we need more elected officials that have this backbone. Thank you, Mark, if you're listening. Hope to have you on the show soon. I know you have your hands full, especially as your new official office takes place in January, although you've been doing a great job so far as the appointed actual clerk of Nye County up until now, and then again officially to start your first elected term in January. And another person I want to congratulate would be Joe McGill on the sheriff's race. That's a great campaign you ran, Joe. It's a great testimony, and it's kind of encouraging, not so much because you beat that particular opponent or because Joe is the new sheriff after defeating the incumbent, but it shows that someone, from the outside can run a good campaign, that can advertise the campaign very well. The signs were everywhere. He was everywhere in the community. I saw him at so many events. Almost every event I was at, there was Joe, except for my events that I had back in different parts of the district that aren't in Nye County, like Indian Springs or Sandy Valley. It seems like Joe was everywhere. So kudos, congrats. I know you have your work cut out for you. I know there's lots of improvements to be made in the agency, and I think you can do a good job. Surround yourself with good, talented people. Be a good team player, like I know you can be, and I think good things are in store. Work hard, which I'm sure you will. Congratulations, Joe. Congratulations, Brian Coonsey, on winning the general election. Officially going to be the new district attorney come January 3rd. I've made no qualms about hiding my dissatisfaction with the existing district attorney's office. I think there was a ton of room for improvement that was never improved upon, and the people spoke in the primary election. I think it was pretty clear that they needed change, that they wanted change. Nothing personally against the existing district attorney. I think he's probably a nice guy. He's a nice man. He has probably a nice family. There's plenty of nice people that I don't want heading up the district attorney's office, though. There's blood relatives of mine that I wouldn't want having any kind of authority in the district attorney's office. So there's my feelings on that. And congratulations to any of the other Republicans that advanced, that won. Even my opponent ran. We were running unopposed in the general anyway. So when my opponent Greg won his election, he was going to be, the incumbent victor again for another term. Congratulations, Greg Hafen. I hope and I pray that you do a good job. I think you are a good guy. Just listen to the constituents. Be accessible. Be available. And do the right things up there. It's not always about voting right, because I believe Greg votes in the correct manner when bills are proposed. The majority of the time, I think, Greg, you do a good job. Just continue fighting for us. Fight harder for us. I hope you do that. And now we're going to move on to the holiday happenings. So it's December now. I cannot believe it's already December. I feel like I'm still reeling from a really hot summer out here, and now we're almost to Christmas. So Pahrump always is doing cool things during the Christmas holiday season. I know I touched on it before. There's going to be Sleep in Heavenly Peace. They build the beds for our community kids, the kids that don't have beds. They build the bed, they install the bed, new linens, pillows, quilts, the whole 9 yards, installed in the person's home, no charge to the family. We're having a very nice event, a dinner event with entertainment, auction, great food, music, tickets are available right now. Natural Vibes has some left over. If you reach out to me through the show, I can make sure if you want a ticket, if I have some available, I have a small allotment I think I still have left. Please reach out to me, and whatever tickets I have available, I'll be glad to get them to you. The cost is $25, but that's going to include a gourmet spaghetti and meatball dinner, along with the salad, breadsticks, dessert, beverages, the whole 9 yards, the entertainment, the auction, the music. John Michael Ferrari is going to be performing. Sophie Love, my very good friend, DJ Sounds, is going to be doing his thing up there. Great music. So it's going to be a good time. Make sure you get involved with that. Also, what else is going on here? Night Communities Coalition on the 24th of December, Christmas Eve, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pahrump Holiday Task Force is going to make sure that they're feeding our community. So I enjoyed their delicious food this past Thanksgiving Day. Gave us the break from having to cook in our house, which was excellent. And the food was great. The turkey was tender. Desserts were on point. Lemonade was extra sweet. It was a good time. I want to thank again Linda Wright, the volunteers, everyone who's involved with Pahrump Holiday Task Force, Michelle Caird. Thank you so much. You put on a great event. It was a good time. The vets were well taken care of. I always appreciate that. They deserve it. There was a special section. And again, veterans, you will be the guests of honor. I highly encourage you check us out on December 24th at the Nye Communities Coalition from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. And you're going to get taken care of. You're going to get fed. It's going to be a good time. There's even going to be some musical entertainment there. So make sure you go out there. It's on Wilson Road. Make sure you're there. What else is going on? Let's see. There is going to be an MLK, that's Martin Luther King, contest for the high school kids. So Pahrump Valley High School, be on the lookout for a contest. If you're a student listening to this, or if you're a parent who has a student at the high school, put it on their radar. It'll be a cool little contest. They're going to do a little essay. The winning essay, a person is going to go ahead and send to us, because the Belmont office is actually promoting this and sponsoring this event, to go ahead and have them do a short, maybe around 30-second commercial, basically, that's going to air on radio out here. So that'll be a good time. So be on the lookout for that. All right, now that we touched on the highlights and good stuff going on in the community, let me switch it back to more intense things now. So safety and security, huge things in our community. It almost seems like by the week I can talk to people, and it seems like the consensus is folks are more concerned about their safety and security. And I mean security physically, economically, spiritually. They're more concerned about their security and their safety, more concerned about that now than they have been, I think, at any time, at least in my experience being a Southern Nevadan. Yeah, I mean, just to touch on some of the things going on in our community that kind of, I think, make it harder to have good feelings about security and safety, is that crime is up. I mean, I can't really quantify it, but I am the local bail bondsman. I can just tell by looking at folks getting arrested, things like that. People in jail and custody on warrants for failing to appear to court. It seems like it's intensifying. That's really of no surprise to me as a bail bondsman, because there's been times where it seems like our jail, our court system, our state, our county is behaving a lot like our neighbor California, a lot like Illinois or Chicago, a lot like Oregon. Revolving door, people getting arrested, for instance, at 1 o'clock in the morning for felonies. They're seeing the judge at like 9 a.m. They're getting released on their own recognizance, not having to post any kind of bail. Just, hey, do you promise to go to court? Okay, pinky swear. Okay, we'll see you in a month, or not, when you decide to not show up, and we'll issue you a warrant. That seems to be the standard way of doing business in Nye County right now. And I'm not completely sure that the DA that we have now cares about that. I'm hoping that the new DA, and I am confident after speaking to Brian Coonsey, after hearing him speak numerous times, after kind of hearing his platform, his ideology, his ideas about the criminal justice system, I think are a lot more in tune with my philosophy than the existing DA. I'm just telling you, a revolving door at the jail is not a recipe for success in our community. Now, I know there's been bad laws passed. I want to thank Greg Hafen, my former opponent, for being one of the sane people who did not vote for certain legislation that makes it mandatory, for instance, that a judge is kind of forced to come here on Saturdays to hold court, and basically if there's no legit opposition, they're letting people out of jail on Saturdays. They're clearing my business for bail bonds, and I know the woe is me, like, oh, I'm feeling sad for the bail bondsman. No, don't feel sad for me. I'm just telling you how it is. They're letting the jail out, and it's not safe, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to be a bail bondsman forever, but I plan on living here in Nye County in Pahrump for a long time, if not until I breathe my last breath as a very old man. I plan on living here. My kids are going to grow up here. I want to see my grandkids grow up here. I want this to be a safe community. And some of these laws that they pass, like that one that makes it mandatory that within 48 hours of an arrest, no matter what, holiday, weekend, whatever, someone has to see a judge with regard to bail. And if there's not a compelling excuse to force that person to stay in jail, they're compelled to just let them go. And I'm not talking about, bad-mouthing a cop, maybe a DUI, reckless driving. We're talking felony activities, okay? We're talking not only necessarily locals doing felonies, but troublemakers coming from a different state come here, break the law. If no one's there to argue for them having bail on a Saturday morning, the jail's going to let them go. The court's going to let them go. And it's not an indictment on the judges. It's not an indictment on the sitting justice of the peace. Sometimes their hands are tied to bad policies and lazy district attorneys. So you can't blame the judge all the time. I want to make that clear if anybody's listening. I'm not ruffling the feathers of any judges out there, because I understand that they're constrained. They don't just get to go up there on the bench and do what they want to do or for the sake of fairness. They have to follow the law. That's what they do. They're jurists. So I respect that. What I don't respect is the horrible laws coming out. That's partly why I ran for assembly out here, is because the laws that we're passing in Nevada are terrible. I knew when Sisolak got elected years ago that was going to be a huge downfall. And then what do we see? We saw these bad laws like the one I just talked about. We saw the mandates. We saw the COVID emergency powers that were unconstitutional, that were exerted upon our community. We saw businesses threatened with fines and just coercion, basically, because of emergency powers that really don't exist in reality, but only in the head of the governor and the media, evidently. So, bottom line is, we're insecure when it comes to inflation. Prices are going up everywhere you go. Ordered a pizza today. It's $1 more than it was like a week or two ago when I ordered from the same exact place. I'm thinking, well, is $1 really going to kill me? No, $1's not going to kill me, but dollar after dollar after dollar after dollar. Eventually, yes, it's gonna get us all. I find myself rejoicing when I drove down near Homestead and 160 and saw gas, the other day, finally below $4. And I'm thinking to myself, 5-6 years ago, would I have been rejoicing at sub $4 a gallon gas? It's almost as if, I hate to say it, but I think I've been conditioned now to have my expectations so low in this new Biden economy that when I see gas at $3.98 a gallon, I start doing a happy dance. You don't want to see that dance. It's nasty. So let's just get back to a place of sanity. Keep the faith alive. Those of you who voted, if you're like me, I know I was in a little bit of a funk, F-U-N-K, after the election. I was down in the dumps, so to speak. still kind of coming out of that fog, that kind of hangover, that, wow, I really thought that on balance that we were going to do a lot better as Republicans. Even the Republicans who I think are not great ambassadors for the Republican brand, I was really pushing for them to win, and they didn't. And it saddened me. But I'm not going to lose faith. There's different ways to we got to be better with our messaging. We got to be better about engaging our friends and family. Don't buy into the whole, it's not polite to talk about religion or politics. It's not polite to talk about that at the dinner table. No, don't buy that for 1 minute. There is nothing more important to talk about than your faith. The reason why you have your faith. The reason why you believe politically what you believe. Those things are of utmost importance. I think the media at large over the last decades and decades has kind of successfully perpetuated that narrative that it's impolite to talk about those things. I mean, folks, you can only talk about the weather and sports. Let's face it, guys, my age, what are we talking about when we're at parties and get-togethers? We're talking about 20-something-year-old men running around playing ball with each other, and that's the focus of our conversation. Now, what about the generations that are coming after us? We have to leave this world a better place than we had. The whole idea up until I became of age was that every generation before my generation, I'm Generation X, so the whole idea, every generation before that point was going to be better off than the one before. And we're no longer at that point. We're at that tipping point. We're at that precipice where it can go downhill super fast. So don't lose heart. Don't lose your voice. Talk to people. Gain their trust. Have dialogue. Express yourself, because we never know, when we're going to be taken out of this world. I'm thinking about a great friend I met on the campaign trail, Chris Mills. My goodness, I didn't even want to go to the Clark County Convention because I figured most of the district I'm campaigning in is Pahrump, Nye County. My wife, tells me I have to go to the Clark County Convention. So I go and I'm thinking, oh gosh, it's so hard to be a conservative in Clark County. We're looked at as like alien creatures, but I went there anyway. And I happened to meet a guy that lived in Summerlin. Well, he lived in a stretch of Summerlin that's in Las Vegas. For those of you that don't know, Las Vegas, the western side of Las Vegas going toward Red Rock, there's a small neighborhood there. Happens to be in the same district Pahrump is in for the statewide assembly race. And I meet this guy, totally impressive, diehard. He's an ambassador. He's a director for Move Freely Nevada, which is part of a bigger organization, Move Freely America, advocating for medical freedom. So he's an airline pilot who refused to get, vaccinated because he believes in his autonomy, bodily autonomy, right? That's so important for the other side. It's all about bodily autonomy. What about our bodily autonomy for pilots who are flying planes, or the airline flight attendants, right? So they're on the front line of this fight for medical freedom, and I don't know if many of our listeners understand, but their activity in mobilizing and galvanizing that smaller community of the airline workers kind of spilled out. It affected people like me. I'm not an airline. I'm a bellman. I'm the actual if you look up an antonym of airline pilot, you would probably find bell bondsman. But I felt like this man was a kindred spirit, a brother from another mother, so to speak, and a robust man. We clicked right away. He took a good liking to me, and hit the campaign trail with me and supported me. And stage 4 cancer came at him so fast. I didn't know that he had cancer because I figured he was like me, taking he was on like a hangover after the primary season. We had lost the election in mid-June, and he did have to detox because he was not only helping me as a candidate, he was helping a few other folks. Another great friend that I met, Janan, who is a flight attendant, who was also running for assembly in Nevada, and he was all out for both of us. No bigger supporter of my campaign than him. And I reached out to him. I talked to him a few times. I think in July I talked to him. He was really bummed out about my election, and he was still hoping for Jeananne to win because she had passed her primary. She had won her primary, and she was moving on to the general. And then I didn't talk to him for a good 5 or 6 weeks because he told me he was okay. Well, I've got to do more flights because I've been missing out on some money trying to be active politically, and also with his Move Freely Nevada organization, in which he was a state director doing great things for that organization. But oftentimes these great things don't pay the bills. You have to go back to reality. I have to go back to writing bonds. He had to go back to flying gigantic metal aircraft in the air to make our country work. So he had to go back to doing that for a while. And then I hear back from him in September, and he lets me know he has this diagnosis. I couldn't talk to him because he had a hard time speaking, so he's reaching out to me via Telegram because he's not a huge believer in Facebook, and I can't blame him. Telegram's a better platform for certain things like that. So he reaches out to me, lets me know his diagnosis and how he has to go into provider mode to help his family. And I'm just I'm saying this because this person who I met in March, I believe, has had an astounding impact on my life as a grown man. I mean, this isn't somebody that I met as a young boy, that I was impressionable, or this is a person who's really affected me and who will have an everlasting impact on the stuff that I do politically or in business. He passed away in early November, and he's gone now, and we never know when it's our time. So do the best that you can from right where you are. Do the best for your family. Leave this place, this earth, a better place than when you found it. And I want to thank you, Chris Mills, and all of our listeners, those of you that are grinding it out, that are you might feel like it's not going to have a lasting impact. Well, why, go to work a crummy job every day, do this, do that, but you never understand just the impact. You are a person who has a cloud of witnesses around you. I'm a believer in Christ. I'm a Christian. I believe there's the God of the universe that looks at everything we do, but even the people in your life, your family, your friends, people that you meet at a Clark County convention are watching you. And it's never a waste to do the right thing. So I want to thank you, listeners, for sticking around, and I hope you stand by, listen to our next podcasts. We'll have one coming out here in another week or so. This is Matt Sadler with the Nevada Patriot Podcast with Matt Sadler. See you next time. God bless.
You've just spent some of the best minutes of your life hanging out with Matt Sadler at the Nevada Patriot Podcast. Thank you for listening. Tell a friend and join us next time. After you catch your breath, check out the NevadaPatriot.com for more content, advertising opportunities, and to give listener feedback. That website again is the NevadaPatriot.com. Until next time, Patriots, stay American.